Good evening, everyone. I would like to call the Village of Lansing Board of Zoning Appeals meeting to order. It is now 7:01, June 16th. And I believe we will continue with our open hearing, which has remained open. We didn't close it at the last meeting, to consider the Bomax development. And I think we need to hear from you, Laura, right? Any new information? We have a lot more information on our hands right now to consider, so lead us through it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Laura Smith. I'm with BZA Meeting representing this application. In addition to the materials that we submitted, I believe it was June 9th of the supplemental information. I also just today candidly pulled the Tompkins County Housing Snapshot, which is a study by Tompkins County of housing needs throughout the county. One item found in their 2024 housing snapshot, which was published just in December of 2025, is that the most pressing housing need in Tompkins County continues to be small units, including single room occupancy units, studios, and one-bedroom housing units. So that really struck me, especially in regards to our conversation that we were having last month of, is there a market for studios? Is there a market for one bedroom? This has been identified by Tompkins County as being the largest need in the area. So to the extent there's concerns about whether or not there is a demand for young professionals and there's demand for independent seniors and there's demand for smaller families to be in studios or one bedroom apartments, clearly there is that acute need still here in Tompkins County. The additional information I submitted on June 9th, which I'm happy to go through, is demonstrating 3 items that were raised by the BZA at our last hearing. The first is our discussion about the traffic impact study. If you recall, Jamie Genzel noted that a traffic impact study was done when there was a proposal for 500 units. We went through the study, both prepared here as Exhibit G, as well as the second to last page and last page of the study, which is his certification of he's reviewed the traffic study and has determined that there's no additional impacts or greater impacts or equal impacts when comparing the traffic study that was done for the 500 units versus the 110 units on that section. The other item, this is Exhibit H of what was presented in the materials from June 9th. Oh my goodness, June 9th is showing the massing of the proposed development and showing that that footprint and the massing of the proposed development is in alignment and in harmony with the massing and proportions of the buildings in the surrounding community and surrounding neighborhood. So again, that's showing the existing 20 Bomax Drive and then the massing for the proposed mixed-use development there on the corner lot. Last, we added as a visual, a more 3-dimensional view of the massing of the building and showing how the massing of the building is in compliance with the neighboring property and the neighboring buildings. Here you'll see in the bottom corner is the proposed 2 mixed unit development. And then behind that is the existing Transact building. So just a better representation and visualization of what these buildings will look like in context with the other buildings. And then to the extent for the BZA's review, the task before you is to weigh the benefit to the applicant against the detriment to health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood and community if the variance is granted. I'd love to maybe again walk through the balancing test that's before the BZA. If we walk through the balancing test, we think that there is a very strong record that the balancing test weighs in the favor of granting the area variance, and that there is a rational basis and substantial evidence for supporting the area variances and granting them. So I can pause there if you want to go through the balancing test again. I can also pause if you have any questions.
I have some questions about this massing map. So not sure on how to read this. I assume that the size of the black dot equates to the density and the footprint? I'm not sure how to read this map.
Right, that's showing the footprint of the building, and that's a great question. So the footprint of the building is shown here in the massing. And again, as a reminder, the area variance is not for the height of the building or the length of the building or the width of the building. Except for the setback going from 75 feet to 52 feet, this building meets all of the building density requirements of the district. So the density, I suppose, can't be shown, it's just a footprint. But it is showing that the actual footprint of this building is in alignment and is in conformance with the surrounding community and surrounding neighborhood. So the two, I guess, black lines are showing the footprint of the building.
Okay.
I'm not sure the footprint was what was
Yeah.
in question, but that's good to know that.
Well, I think it speaks to whether, you know, the first item of the balancing test is whether there's an undesirable change produced in the character of the neighborhood. And I think this strongly illustrates that this will not have an impact physically or aesthetically on the neighborhood. It fits in line with the character of the neighborhood. It's not, you know, oversized for the neighboring properties. It's actually smaller than the neighboring properties. So when looking at the context and the character of the neighborhood, there is little to no impact on that first item in the balancing test.
Well, it's smaller than the neighboring properties because it's a smaller parcel. And I don't know that many uses could be of this size while fitting on that size, small of a parcel because of the parking requirements. So while the footprint, sure, meets the requirements of the code, the use and the density and the size of the building would not be replicated by many other uses and be permissible on that size of a lot. Just by the sheer parking requirements, according to Mike Scott.
Yeah, I figured it to say you put in the same size building, just so the board knows. Same size building in there, that you're using it for complete weekend space.
You'd need more
The
parking.
required parking would be 310 spots. And that's if you fill, now granted, there's less spots now, but to drop another building in there that would be commercial of that size, of that square footage. And that's taking into consideration all three floors. We're talking about total square footage. The required parking would be over 300 spaces.
So I'm hearing you for more efficient use of the parks lot.
I'm sorry?
I'm hearing that it's more efficient use of the parks lot.
Well, all I'm doing, the reason I compared it is we had spoken like the last meeting that it's not out of anything else that could be built there, but if you did build a commercial, strictly commercial building there of that size, then you would need more parking. You just couldn't do it. Just take.
There's not enough
oversized for the lot in theory.
Mhm.
Yes. we're-
Want to jump on nobody has a question. I just have a question. One of the reasons we continued this was for you to get information on transfer of residential development rights, restrictive covenants, and we have the agreement. But I'd like you, if you don't mind, to address briefly why that should make a difference in our determination.
Thank you. You're absolutely right. That was the number one item that I did want to discuss. I worked with Natalie to propose a transfer of residential development rights and restrictive covenants agreement that would transfer the residential development rights, which is owned by the same owner who owns the corner parcel of the Transact building, to the corner parcel. We have proposed 5 years. That's in line with the Transact lease that's currently in place. Where I think that's extremely beneficial to the board is first, it addresses a concern that was raised by the board, understanding that a ZBA decision can't really set precedent. We know in practice that can sometimes be used as a demonstration that a denial is unreasonable. Here, this firmly brings this application outside of the realm of, I would even say, replicable, in that we're offering the residential development rights of a neighboring property as a condition of this density variance. So in the first instance, it addresses the BZA's concern of setting precedents, or will this somehow change the character of the village as a whole? Is this something that would then be asked in a different portion of the village outside the BDT. This, I think it puts squarely in the box of, this is a unique property, this is a unique circumstance, and this is not replicable throughout the village. Second, it also addresses the concern of having the density spread to the neighboring property. It will keep the Transact building purely commercial or expose industrial use as well, and would not permit that residential use to spread to the neighboring property. It also allows us, in my opinion, to have a lower percentage of the variance we're asking for. It goes from the variance asking to go from 20 units to 110 units, to go for a variance of 80 possible units to 110 units.
Okay, when you say 80 units, you're saying this is as significant as if you would have put that other parcel in with this, in your opinion?
Yes, yeah, I'm right.
Okay, I guess that's fine. I just wanted to understand your,
Is
you're
coming
right.
from the acreage of the two parcels together.
But really, this is only for 5 years. So if we would look down the road, then this accommodation you made is gone.
And it can, right, this is just our opening discussion for what a transfer development rights would look like.
Okay.
If the condition is a longer period, you know, I believe that's up for discussion, but the 5 years seemed like a rational and reasonable place to start, given that that's in line with the Transact lease.
Well, all right, I don't want to, because a lot of people wanted to hear about this, so I want to let them go.
Or, yeah,
Okay, if you don't mind going, I mean, well, then I guess I'll just say, it's shocking to me that you would put a limited 5-year right equivalent to an actual transfer of property. That's the first thing surprising to me. The second thing that's surprising to me is that you're not telling the detrimental benefits of transitional property rights.
I'm not following the second.
There's a lot of negative publicity about these kind of rights, and I'm sure you're aware of them, right? Litigation in New York City, et cetera, that this could create, in effect, one huge, property here and basically unsellable properties over here because they've transferred their rights. Hypothetically, in our case, for instance, say you had given us not just this limited right, say you gave us this right forever, okay? And the 10 years from now, that industrial property became rundown and unsellable. And the best thing that could happen to it would be to become residential property with pretty density. We couldn't do it because the thing would be running with the land and you'd be stuck there. So in some ways a permanent, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if I could pause you, so included in this, and this was built in intentionally, that the village board could override the restriction. So should the land use development in the future want to favor residential in that area, the village board could step in and override.
And if we would, we in effect got no value of your density because now it's not part of this parcel at all. And even in 5 years, it's not part of this parcel.
And if 5 years is your stopping point, then we're happy to have.
Yes, my stopping point is you putting it equal to a permanent transfer of a piece of property. And even a permanent transfer of a piece of property is not equivalent in my mind to straighten out the density of a piece of property. We have density rules to help define this. But the real argument, don't you think, is how crowded and everything the actual development is relative to other developments in the area. And this doesn't really change that. This is a crowded development. You know, when we put commercial things in here, and I certainly love the fact that you put commercial things in here, but I think when you do that, you need an even larger parcel because you need to have things coming in and out, development. You can do it, and we've seen parcels that do it, but you come in and you have your commercial property. Behind that, you have all kind of residential property. You can have single, units. You can have double units. You can have stand-alone single-family homes, all as part of that. But you got to have enough room for it. You can't crowd into this and say we're going to add retail, which makes more traffic, et cetera, and say that's a good deal for us. Okay, just,
Respectfully, I just.
sure, just, you can, and I'm fine with that.
The density that you have set in your code is too high to allow mixed use development as right. If you think about what is 1 unit per 6,000 square feet, that's 1 unit for more than a quarter of an acre.
Okay,
So
I think that's a good
in
point.
standard city lot, that is a quarter of the acre, you can only have one dwelling unit in there.
Well, here's the point, though. We have the code. You and I are not changing the code. The code has the density.
And
If someday, sorry, go ahead.
So in context of the neighborhood, and we go back to the balancing test, which that is what's before the BZA, is does the balancing test weigh in favor of granting this area variance? This is one tool or one area that is to mitigate a perceived effect. If you disagree on the time, it can be longer, but the concept that it's not genuine or not presented as a real solve to the issues that the BZA raised, I'm going to push back on that.
Okay, well, I guess maybe we can, might just disagree on terminology, but we may actually agree on points. What weight I put on it and what weight you put on it may be different, and we can certainly do that, okay? But that doesn't say less of your opinion or say less of my opinion on how to view that density. Okay, thank you. That's all the questions. Go ahead.
And I'm also concerned about the adding maybe 150 or 160 people to this small plot of land. We're talking 110 apartments. Some will be singles, but some will not. I don't have any idea. Maybe you do, how many people you expect to move in there, but in any event, it's a lot of people on a small space. And not excited about what looks to me to be clear cutting of trees either. I'm not even sure we can consider that, but it bothers me.
That was raised by the BZA. You do have a tree fund in your code that is regulated by the planning board.
Right,
It regulates trees that are over 6 inches of diameter. I don't know, and I don't have a study of how many trees meet the 6 inches of diameter, but when you drive past the site, it is evident that several of those trees are scrub trees. They are small saplings that grew up because there was no one there to practice the silviculture there, and they are less than 6 inches in diameter. So to the extent the BZA is going to make its determination and make its denial based on a clear cutting of trees, the record doesn't support that as a reasonable.
Can I add in?
I know it's very green. We'll go by there at least 5 times a week. It's all green.
In surrounding properties, so I just drove there today. So surrounding properties, and this was something noted by the BZA last month, is that all the surrounding properties are hidden by trees. And maybe those weren't the exact words, but they were screened from the road. Driving down, you can see the full face of Dairy One Co-op from the street. There's maybe 1 or 2 screenings, but it's fully available. The same with the FedEx building across the street, the same with the post office. So the concept of it's fully wooded or it's fully lotted, it doesn't necessarily need to stay that way in compliance with the code. And should there be a need for screening, which we presented on our site plan, that's something that would be discussed by the planning board during their site plan review of what trees need to be planted, what landscaping needs to be planted in order to preserve that screening. But the concept of you can't see any other buildings from Warren Road is not correct.
Well, I'm going to push back a little on that concept. I did go up there and look around, and the one half of Dairy One is better screened than the other, but every residential complex has tons of trees. And I took a picture this afternoon looking over at the FedEx building that you just said is not screened. And those trees pretty well hide that FedEx building. Lower down, you can see, but there's a lot of screens. And when you look over at the environmental or not environmental, the part by the airport there, oh, the trees are immense over there. And if you say you're going to put a couple screening trees in here to help it, you can't. Once you clear cut it like that, you know how many years it takes. We had Lisa to show us one time with a coffee can. 14 years to get it the size of a coffee can. It's a demonstrative method I'll never forget. So you really can't. And when we talk about changing the character of the neighborhood, I think he makes a really good point. You clear cut the trees and you have none built into your plan. Look at Northwood has plenty of trees built into their plan. East Point has plenty of trees built into their plan. And even to less extent, Heights of Lansing, because they cut them down, but they're doing everything they can to build trees up there. So I think the trees are a very important part of this. And we know you have to cut to build a complex, but look how much they didn't have to cut to build Northwood, for instance, all the trees they saved there in their concept. And when you come in there, Northwood Apartments, for instance, you come off the road and back, you're going to have none of this with this plan. It's boom, it's there, it's using every inch of it. And I think there's a lot of other uses you could make of this within compliance with our code and our present density requirements without violating them. And how much we have to go, 300%. I don't count this agreement for much, and I wouldn't even count it if you made it permanent, because I see it as a disadvantage, permanent in the sense that there would be restrictions on that use of that property. So to me, it's not going to change where I am on density. I would, if you actually included that other parcel in it, it would affect me some, but you're still only at 37%. You're asking for a pretty good variance. So those are what you're up against.
I agree
Go
with
ahead.
you on that, on the transfer of rights. I read through it and it didn't make any difference to my opinion.
And I know this is kind of out of order here, but I have to say, take a moment to say, no matter how this turns out, I must say I'm very impressed with your qualities as an advocate on many levels. Thank you. Any more questions?
That we kind of
I'm good for now.
captured it over here.
That's all right.
You guys could have did a pretty good job, yeah. I'm good.
Yes, I have a few more thoughts and points, just because I also drove up there today and I think we all took a field trip. And I do think Dairy One, the one Dairy One building that has very few trees in the front.
Right.
Newest one.
Is the newest one. Everything else is, I think, very much camouflage. I think the post office is set so far back and that landscaping in the front is beautiful. I drove into the Cornell Business and Tech Park, which honestly I've only ever done to get to the airport in a hurry. But I took the time to drive down. It is a beautifully treed thoroughfare. And until you get past the airport, you don't really know that that is a business and tech park.
Trails, lake, there's all kinds of stuff.
It is stunning. And then you drive down Bomax and it is heavily, you cannot even see the Transact building from the road. I honestly didn't even know it was there until I saw a sign. And Dairy One, the wooded and insulated building, you don't know it's there until you see the sign. So, and the Dairy One building that is exposed, honestly, is likely going to be required to plant more trees soon.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they're coming for another use.
And I think that's a great point when you're comparing the age of the buildings, right? You're allowing, and we're comparing buildings that you're allowing the landscaping to be mature, right? Transact was built in 1971, that had some time post-construction for the landscaping to mature. The same, I assume with the post office, that as a comment on how old I think the post office could be, but Dairy One obviously is a quite new structure and it does take time for landscaping to mature. I'm not arguing that. But with time, the proper screening and the proper landscaping, that's part of the site plan review. That's the considerations of the site plan review. So to the extent it's comparing a 20-year-old development to what might happen on day one, I would argue that's not really a one-to-one comparison. It's thinking of what landscaping can we put in so that in X amount of years, it looks the same as Dairy One. It looks the same as.
That's not actually our purview necessarily to tell you. I mean, it can be a condition, but we're not the ones to tell you what has to be planted. But our overall concern for the character of the neighborhood is such that there is so much hardened infrastructure on a very small lot. It's almost wall to wall. It takes up almost the entire piece of property, save for the strip down the middle and a little bit on Bomax. It just,
In that building footprint though, that is permitted under the code. So, I hear you, Mike, when doing the calculations of the parking, and obviously that's a variable metric of what the use is versus what the parking requirements are. But your code does not cover parking for lot coverage. It only looks at buildings.
at the buildings.
And considering there's a lot of hardscape, again, I don't want to, you have your opinion, you have your viewpoint, I'm not trying to sway that. But I am saying that the building is in line with your code. Your code does not regulate the size of parking or the size of impervious surfaces on a lot. I forgot my water in the car. It looks at the actual massing of the building. That is what is for lot coverage.
But the density necessitates the parking, which increases the hardscaping and the impervious surface on the lot. So I understand that you're saying the footprint by itself is permissible, and we're not arguing that. But the density that's being put into that building is necessitating so much impervious surface, which changes the character of the neighborhood to a more clear-cut, asphalted area that will run the stormwater downstream. This is a higher point in the village. I don't know that we have anything of this. I mean, we don't have anything of this density in that area. And it will change the nature of the parcel, of the property around it. I think there will be more traffic than anticipated coming down Bomax in the morning to get to the center of the village and avoiding Warren Road than the traffic study indicated. And I do think that the board can take precedent into consideration because we have not had a variance application of 100% density before in the village. So when they determine that a similar application is not previously considered, we can consider precedent in making a decision. So those are some points I wanted to add for the board's
Well,
consideration.
I remember, and others will too, of when the 20 acres at East Point clear cut, there was so much anger in the community that we had to have meetings held at the, I guess it was a Holiday Inn there, with police presence because they were afraid there was going to be violence. And I'm speaking not only for me about the clear cut, but for the neighbors too. There was a heavy anger in some of the residents.
They went ahead and did it.
And,
Well, I'm glad.
and I guess again, to bring us back though to that balancing test, right? That's what before the BZA, and general concern from the public, even if it was about this project, which of course there are no testimonies given during the public hearing, but concern about public reaction about a building that is not this building a few years ago is not a reasonable basis to deny this area variance. So again, I want to bring us back to
Okay, but I want to push, when you're done, I want to push back on that point.
an engineering study that says the impact on traffic will not be, I guess I'm gonna forget what the LOS stands for.
Level of service.
Level of service. The level of service won't significantly change. There won't be an increase in impact.
That's really hard to believe. It's really hard to believe.
But
But every traffic study we ever get in the village always says there will not be a significant change. And that's the way it's been since I've been on the village board, that everyone always told us that you will not
I
notice.
guess I was two things, if I may, and she may agree with me or not. On the traffic studies, the traffic study, in my opinion, is telling you basically these roads can support this traffic. The traffic study isn't telling us what the residents will feel about this increased traffic. And that goes back to his point that she disagreed with. What he's seen in the past from residents shows how upset they are. And you say, we can't look at how upset they are. But it's an indication of how the character has changed. It's the character changing that we want to look at. And one indication of that to us is how the citizens react to that character change. One of the reasons the citizens come here is the greenery. We had a member of he was a trustee, the German guy. You know who I'm talking about?
Oh, Wolfgang.
Wolfgang resigned from here and went to Tennessee because it was too crowded. Okay. This is the plan you're talking about when they built, it was too crowded. Okay. He doesn't want to live in New York City. This is too crowded. Now, to somebody coming in now, looking at our green spaces and stuff, they say this is amazing. But he had seen it grow from single family homes that he was in to Heights of Lansing to South East Point to proposed other developments. And he felt the traffic and everything else had changed significantly. So that's an example of what somebody believes the character of the charm of our area is. So we have to be concerned, not so much about people complaining, but because people are complaining, it's an indication that they feel there's a change in character too. And I feel there'd be a change in character with this building you proposed there. And I feel it would be a detriment to the neighborhood I live. That's my personal opinion. I can't speak for the other members of the board, but that I don't need a traffic study to tell me that. I know what my neighborhood looks like. I know the density of other buildings. I know all the people who have bought large pieces of property and put plenty of woods or left plenty of woods to give us that. And I think it's a detriment to them that somebody would come in and not have to do all that. They spent that money. They did those things. They've kept those things there. They could have built 2 more buildings, 3 more buildings, and they didn't. They left it green. They left it spaced out. South Point, for instance, is very spaced out, and Northwood Apartments is very spaced.
Tough thing about this is that this is not a residential site. You know, it's in business and technology.
Tech.
It's business, it's in tech.
And the village is exploring mixed use. And I know you say that it's not financially feasible with the current zoning in the area. Perhaps that's the case, but the village is dipping its toe into mixed use. And the village wants to maintain the feeling of the village and not become the city of Ithaca or the town of Ithaca. It's a very small village with not a lot of density in it. So if the current mixed use parameters don't permit mixed use on a lot this small to be financially viable, then this lot may not be the lot for mixed use. And maybe the village is more interested in mixed use in a more commercial type area like the Trip Hammer corridor or in the Cornell Business Park when you can reuse an existing structure and save money on rehabilitation of an existing building and add a few units on top of commercial. And maybe that's the space that mixed use makes more sense. It just might not make sense for this lot if we can only have mixed use with single or studio apartments when the village is really a place of increasing families based on the comp plan. I know you cited that study from Tompkins County as a whole, but the village has seen more increase in families. We want different types of housing. This is one type of a lot of one type of housing on a very small parcel that's very dense at a very large intersection, I think, for the village. Very populated with the airport and the post office being nearby. And Bomax does become a thoroughfare from Warren down to the center of the village, weaving
Which
through
is
the
what they
neighborhood.
don't want, you know.
Oh, no.
They absolutely don't, but that was.
And the traffic study, I thought it didn't account for people going down Bomax, which I know that they will. If to go to Target, you're not going to want to sit at a light at Warren, sit at a light at 13, go down, sit at a light coming off of 13 to get to another light to wait to go to Target. They're going to go down Bomax and weave through Norway and get to Trip Hammer, which will cause a lot of increase in traffic in an already poor road to handle it. There's already issues with people running through stop signs.
Well, there's already that speed sign there.
Mhm.
It wouldn't be there if there wasn't an issue. Oh,
And I, not just internet, I live on Bomax. And it's because of me that those radar signs are on Bomax. People are coming off the Warren Road and they use it, as Natalie has already said, as
The raceway.
they're using it to get to Trip Hammer. They're speeding through those neighborhoods. We have a deputy sheriff that sits now down on the at the end of Norway, and there are some mornings he'll stop 4 or 5 people right in a row, tickets left and right, and none of them are from the neighborhood. There are people cutting through. The traffic has gotten really, really bad, and I had asked to have those radar signs put up. It slows people down a little bit, but there's just so much traffic and it's really disappointing. So by adding an apartment complex on that corner, it's gonna increase the traffic a lot, especially with the, I mean, the mixed use part, you know, I was all for that. I thought the mixed use idea was great, right? Having a grocery store, a health shop. But the whole apartment piece of it is, it's gonna create a lot more traffic and a lot more people in the neighborhood on that corner. And I think it's impact.
Okay, anybody else comment?
I'm gonna put one more plug in for variety of housing, right? And I know we say variety of housing, but then we always flip back to single family homes, right? It is important for the vitality of the village to have different types of housing at different types of price points. And to go back to, but this gentleman was upset when his single family home was infringed on, which we're not near single family homes, right? We're in the business and technology district. It can't be, protecting the village feel can't be the excuse to exclude different types of housing from the village. So I'm very appreciative within the single family residence, having single family homes, but in the BTD district, it, again, right, in my opinion, it is the perfect location for the studios and the single family, I'm sorry, the one bedroom, the studios and the one bedroom apartments that is missing from that middle, to have young professionals that are not ready to buy a house, to have independent seniors who want to snowbird in the winter. The concept of someone, you know, not having to take care of my lawn as a retiree, I dream about that. My husband hates it, but I dream about it every day. So I'm appreciative of the village feel, I'm appreciative of the task that's before you, but that cannot be to the exclusion of different types of housing.
Well, maybe we, again, can agree on concept or agree to disagree. I'm not sure how it'll come out, but when you say the village feel, we're talking about the character of the whole village. And we think, or I think at least, that's a very important thing for us to keep in mind. Now, when you talk about different housing, we have plenty of, there's smaller apartments, bigger apartments around this. And maybe I would feel certainly different if this was a mix, but to give one unit, even a type of unit, it results in just more density is all. I'm not against a studio condo. I had a studio condo in the first, in a city, my first few years out of school, and I loved it. There's a lot of good things about it. But if you have too many of those in our business and technology park, you're going to change the character of that. That is, we discussed that heavily wooded area, that is trees and stuff. That is not, we have a hotel and it does fine. We're not opposed to somebody having on a large enough parcel with enough density, studios, one bedroom, two bedroom, whatever. But this is basically studios pretty much, this thing at least.
Yes, and I hope that, you know, in no way was I trying to be tough.
I'm not against studio. I'm saying if studios create more density is what I'm trying to say.
But even under your code, again, even to have one studio that dictates what's the half of the house? 0.13 of an acre, right? That the land to dwelling unit ratio in your code for studios will not build studios, right? It's difficult to build one bedroom apartments. Again, going back to that typical quarter acre lot, that's one dwelling unit on a quarter acre lot. I understand what you were saying of that there are other apartment buildings in larger areas, but to make the studio and the one bedroom, which that is the business plan, to make that work, it needs to be a higher density.
Needs to be what?
A higher
I
density.
mean, that
Well,
is,
no, it just needs to have a larger parcel. That's all. It doesn't have to have a higher density. It can have our density. It just got to have a larger parcel to do it. You can't do it on a small parcel. That's true, but you just get a larger parcel. But you're making this, trying to fit all these people on a small.
Just a question about the two properties. Because I understand that there were some considerations of maybe doing something with parcel A at one point. Is there any reason why they couldn't be combined?
They are currently owned by different
I
LLCs.
see.
When I think it was a PUD or PDD was proposed for the two parcels that.
PDA? A PDA,
Same thing.
Planned Development Area.
So when the PDA was defined, by maybe the village board, I don't want to put the village board.
It would be the village.
That project was off the table. They pivoted to this new project. This is, I guess to say it differently, the combination of the two parcels was already defined. So this is the use of keeping the current parcel as is.
Okay.
And I believe one of the BZA members noted it was listed for sale. That's correct. It is listed for sale. And this corner parcel is where the development focus will be to move forward as Plan B or Plan C or, whichever plan they're on from trying other plans that have already been declined by the village.
Okay, I want to address feasibility for just a minute. I listened to what your architect said last time about that it's more expensive to build this kind of unit and that actually townhouses and apartments built like townhouses were a lot cheaper to build. So I guess
Why is that?
the fact that you picked a more expensive thing to build is not, in my opinion, a reason we should change our density.
And townhouses are not permitted on this parcel. It did look at that after the BZA meeting. Townhouses are only permitted in a PDA.
What about apartment complexes like Northwood? Will Northwood be permitted on this?
It would be permitted, but we would need the same density variance. I mean, right, that's what we're promoting, but the use of multifamily.
No, if you had.
The use of mixed use, that's what's before the board today.
Right.
It is a permitted use. It's permitted under a special permit. But it would need a density variance, an area variance.
Just seems like you need a bigger piece of land.
I guess I
Just,
lost. If you built less units, you wouldn't need
Couldn't.
as much density.
but it wouldn't be viable economically.
We built
That's what you say, but we've not.
20 units, which that's
Just what's allowed.
what's allowed. That
Can't do it.
But when we say it wouldn't be feasible, we don't have any kind of, and we don't know your exact numbers, but an idea. Here's what our general rental would be. Here's what our cost is. We don't know that it's feasible or not economically. We can see whether another building type is feasible or not, suggest that to you or not. But you've got nothing to convince us that this is economically unfeasible because you haven't presented any.
And if economic, right, and if economic information would change your vote, we can get that economic information. So but I also wanted.
I put that in the following categories. Your pushback is give us more time to get economic things. Your pushback is if 5 years is not enough, let us go back and get some more. I think you should come here with your best offer and see if it works or not. Don't forget how many years your clients have been at this. They know what they feel about density. I heard the mayor at a meeting 2 years ago tell them density is going to be a problem. So this should be no surprise. They should put their best. We shouldn't keep having continuances to make it 10 years, 15 years. See if that would make a difference, or we shouldn't have to say in advance, if you do this, that'll make a difference.
And my only point is, if you came to a position of, I would approve this, but for the record doesn't show dollars and cents.
Oh, I see.
Right?
Okay, that's a different issue.
Has to get you those dollars and cents, right? So my point is not, give us more time or bring more information. I'm only saying, if this piece of information is a but for you, I would ask the time to go get you that information. Again, I will walk over glass to get you that information. But if what you're really saying is, even if you showed me the economic information, that will not sway what I'm going to vote, that's a different comment. Might not be worth.
I don't think one has to show it or not. We have to look at what you provided and then look at what all the elements that we could provide them the character and see what effect it has.
But I.
You certainly,
It's all the time. They say, give me more information, give me this, and we come back as, you know, as we did with this meeting. So if it was the board's decision of, I'm a yes unless I saw the numbers, I don't want that to be the linchpin of your decision. We'll get you any information that you need, but if it's, we got you the information that wouldn't sway any decision, that's, you know, again, a different.
I guess said a different way, have your clients explored other uses which would be financially viable and
On this
return
block.
on investment for them?
There's a few uses that are permitted as a right in a BTD. So I'll make that comment. There is a very few business uses. There's manufacturing, there's warehousing, there's distribution. There's now the use for, and I can grab the code, I have it over there. But when you look at the code of what's actually permitted as a right, it is very limited. There's not many uses that are permitted in the BTD district.
When you say as of right, are you excluding anything requiring a special permit?
No, I'm including it as a special permit.
Because we've added quite a bit.
There's a good number in there.
But I just, go back to the whole zoning, just a comment that I've kept quiet on all this, but, you know, the zoning was, the density, was put in zoning for some reason, as long before I was here or whatnot, but it was to keep the village looking like a village. So naturally, the density is going to be different than City of Ithaca or whatnot, because it's obvious you want it more dense down there. But the 6,000 per unit is really not what's on trial here or whatnot. It's the actual numbers that we're giving for this project compared to what we have for zoning.
Mhm.
So the discussion about our zoning is wrong or anything like that, and with all due respect, that it's not really the case here.
Mhm.
So I just want to make sure the board knows that.
And
I didn't mean it for that impression. It's just
I just wanted to point out.
why is it, you know, why is it, you know, why is it the number that it is? And from a developer's perspective, it is because the density is higher than any other location. It's quite high. And
It's because whoever was in charge at some point wanted the village to look a certain way.
yes,
And that's what the village wanted.
And that's the character of the village.
and the Board of Trustees did set this density very recently. So it was considered to change the density to allow for a more dense use. And they wanted to keep it at this density, even despite it being in the BTD. So it is analogous with what's currently allowed in HDR. I know this is not a residential area,
Mhm.
but that process was thought through by the Board of Trustees to leave it at this density for multi-use or multi-dwelling.
How do we proceed then?
I think we'll close the public hearing if no one else has any other additional comments or questions.
Are there any other additions, comments?
We can go through the seeker if you want to.
Okay,
I know Mike has some
There's
concerns with it though.
Only
Okay.
because the seeker is based on site plan and not where this actual seeker is only based on the density variance itself.
okay,
If this project moves to the special permit process, then at that point, the seeker would be based on the site plan. This is just about the variance for density because it's an unlisted action.
But we need to do the seeker if we're gonna approve the action. So since there will be changes to the seeker, I think it might make sense to go through findings before we make a determination and see where the board is leaning as to what to do with the application. So I would go through the 5 factors,
okay.
not vote, but determine whether at that point we should do the seeker.
So that'll be the last page in your packet. So the actual resolution based upon.
Is there a link on the website, the video?
Yes, it's on YouTube, be under village. Lansing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so do we have to close the public hearing?
I think I still would, yeah.
Could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Seconded by Mike, all in favor?
Aye.
So now what we'll do is we'll go through our findings, as we always do. And I'm going to read the statement, and then I want you to tell me if you agree or disagree, and we'll take a vote. Whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties will be created by granting the area variance.
Yes.
Roy?
Yes, yeah.
I would say yes, initially for sure.
I say yes as well.
And your
And
reasoning
why?
was stated.
The
So
reason,
we can add on. You want to hear reasoning as we go? I think that's a good idea.
I think that's important.
We have, in terms of the character of our neighborhood, we have all these developments that do have trees and everything around them, and they paid large amounts of money to have these spread out portions. We have this technology and development area that has put trails around, plenty of trees and stuff. And I think that character, this would be an undesirable change to that character that's pretty consistent throughout. I would even say a crowded feel rather than the free, open feel that we have in the area. It goes really to the charm of the village. And in terms of specifics, we have plenty of trees, and I know they could put some here, but they're not for years and years with the big footprint of the building going to be able to put enough trees in this limited parcel. The parking, and I'm talking not about just parking enough spaces for cars, but how the parking's kind of spread out, like South Point, and even down in the developments by the airport. They're not big patches of parking. They're worked in around the development. Increased traffic, we talked about earlier, and I incorporated about what the traffic studies show, but versus what our citizens perceive as the character of their neighborhood and how it changes. It might be hard to explain to somebody else, but the loss of the village feel is a real significant thing to our residents, and we don't want to do anything to affect that. Overall, this development would make that area more dense and more crowded. You can look at density, or you can just look at it as crowded of things.
Others,
So, for those reasons.
other comments?
I agree with
Second part of, if I may, the second part of that talks about does it affect nearby properties and to their detriment? And I guess I would just add that all the properties here have, in commercial and residential, look how much trees and everything Board Warner has and the large pieces. They've all tried to keep this feel of trees and everything else at a great expense. And it would be a detriment to many of them who've done that, even the Transact building you mentioned that got all the trees, to now let a development come in that just has none of that around. So in answer to the second part of that question, I think it's a detriment to those nearby properties too. And which ones am I talking about? I'm talking about Heights of Landing, East Point, Northwood Apartments, Lansing Trails. I'm talking about housing development below. They've all counted on this area. And in terms of business technology, they still put a lot of money in those trees and everything when they built it. They could have just done a huge strip mall like look up there, and they didn't. So I think that it's a detriment to them to have this be allowed to go through like that. Okay, thank you.
Right?
No, I have no further
Devin?
comment on that.
No additional comment.
My concern is character is one of those things that's very difficult to measure. But I've lived in the village a long time, and I've just seen bit by bit the erosion of what we consider natural, somewhat natural areas. Yes, the trees in there are young. They need time and management to really become productive, mature trees. It's not just the trees, it's just that all of the natural areas in the village are subject to development now. And this is one more that is going to disappear, one more patch of rather natural land that's going to disappear. I don't want to go by village feel so much because I think that isn't something you can measure. I am concerned about the traffic. And I am concerned about people's behavior as opposed to what a traffic study shows. Behavior is one thing, what you can predict is another, and level of service, I'm sure the roads are up to the level of service. County does a pretty good job of keeping up with that. But there's definitely an impact on the village itself, maintaining all its own roads, and the more traffic that goes through Norway and Lansing Trails and Lansing Trails 2 is going to impact those neighborhoods in ways that are not going to make those people happy. So I agree. Should we move to the second one? Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance.
I'd say it can, yes.
Well, yes, we've talked about what other possibilities might be out there for this particular property, and they are limited.
They are limited, but they pointed out that the footprint's similar to others of the property. So that means all the other uses that were of any of those, I mean, it doesn't have to be residential. They can build commercial, they could build it.
Well, it's still in the B and T park.
Right.
So it could,
require even more parking, which just exacerbates some of the issues.
Oh,
we discussed.
okay.
And you can take on face value that the applicant is saying, you know, a project of a lesser size will not be feasible for them financially. If there's other uses that may produce income and be cost effective for them, we really can't say at this point because we haven't explored that
Yeah,
with
we
the
don't know.
applicant. There are other permitted uses by special permit on that parcel. I think the board, you know, to the extent you just want to accept on face value what the applicant has said, that this benefit sought perhaps cannot be achieved by other method, you're fine to do so with the note that we really haven't explored the possibility of applicable uses there and the economic impact.
Let's see, what other people say on that
Your
question?
parcel being used or incorporated for a meaningful way. But we welcome the board's input on that.
so our answer for that is that they could possibly pursue other avenues on this particular property, but it may not be economically viable. And it's only economically viable in its present form and with the area variance. So I guess we can say that it's not really achievable without the area variance.
I think that's right for the kind of structure they want to use there.
I think that's a good point.
Mhm.
For the
So
specific.
they
use that they're-
know relative to the structure.
Without this density.
Yeah.
Okay, with that in mind, put me as a no.
Right? No, all of us?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Whether the requested area variance is substantial.
For all the reasons we've said.
Right.
It's
Whether you look at the
very substantial.
percentage, 300, or whether you look at
Parcel A, less so than 300%, but 37% is still a little up there, but not not bonkers.
Not considering the transfer development rights,
Not considering, then yeah, 300 is.
just the project as proposed is a substantial change.
Oh, then I would agree with that with, if you don't consider the transfer, right?
I mean, this is just for the area variance,
Mhm.
because the density is
I would think-
substantially more.
I would think it,
I don't know, I think pouring 150 more people in that parcel is substantial.
Mhm.
yes, I'd say substantial.
This kind of goes back to
If it's only 100.
the first finding. Whether the proposed area variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
Well, I would repeat the things I said for number one about the character and the detriment, but also add that the topic we talked about before in terms of negative residential value here, that we have certain things in our neighborhood, and this would set up precedent, I think, that could cause a kind of a domino effect when you keep getting more and more of those kind of things, and it would change the character of it, whether they're in the residential portion or in the technology part. It's gonna have a negative residential.
Well, our residential areas are already controlled under.
Yeah, but they are adjacent to this parcel. They're right down the road. I wouldn't not consider them for purposes, but it is, precedent setting.
What are the plans for stormwater management?
To direct it to the existing stormwater fund.
The one on the other property.
That would be done through a stormwater easement, which is very typical for stormwater management.
Because that's my main environmental concern besides the loss of forest cover, is we get gully washers all the time now. It doesn't rain a little bit, it rains 3/4 of an inch in 15 minutes. And they're just very intense storms. And I see the runoff because I live at the other end of the village. I live near the lake. And everything comes down the creeks very, very fast. There's very little residence time in our streams because of the steepness of the terrain and because so much hardened surface is making everything go faster and more intense. So
That's a complicated subject because
it is
it
complicated.
depends on what the existing stormwater facility is designed for, whether it can.
Yeah, and we're constantly having to upgrade those. Culverts, stormwater detention basins, all of those vegetated swales and all of those things. We're constantly having to change them and to upgrade them because they can't handle what comes at them. So I definitely think there will be some adverse effects on the environment. And I'm citing stormwater because I see the effects of that downstream. And I also consider the loss of forest cover as an important issue. Other comments?
Echo what the community member said around Bomax with the driving. I see it on Dart, kind of similar situation that you see on Bomax. But other than that, then obviously, like you said, the stormwater situation, but those seem to be the two largest environmental and neighborhood factors, from my perspective.
Okay, thank you.
Do we know whether, and maybe this doesn't matter, but do we know whether there'd be enough sewer for another 110 units?
That was something we had discussed. Planning board situation.
That's planning board. That would go with the permit.
Yes, and planning board.
Yeah.
and
Water and sewer.
Water and sewer.
Yeah, that's not our consideration. All right, so I've heard from all of you. Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created.
Yes, but that's not exclusive.
No.
Self-created in the sense that they bought the plan.
Yeah.
They bought
I wouldn't say,
the way it was, that's self-created.
yeah, I would say it's not. If they cut the parcel into that shape, then it's self-created, but other than that, I would say it's not. It's just a matter of the size of the property and the uses that we allow for that property. So I would say not self-created.
Well, this is the plan that's submitted. And there isn't an alternative.
There is not, or there is.
There isn't.
If they want to
And-
use this type of dwelling.
Yeah.
That they're claiming there's not an alternative, but there is other uses permitted on that.
Right.
Lot.
Right.
So for this addition, it's self-created.
Mhm.
So the board needs to make a determination how you want to vote for that one. Seems split.
Okay, this is for the density variance,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
Is seeking the difficulty of having the variance needed self-created.
Did you say that again?
Is the alleged difficulty self-created? So they're claiming that they can't make this project viable without the increased density. Is that self-created, pursuing a project that's not viable without the density?
I would say it is. Because you could propose less density. And make it within our regulations.
Basically, was the need for this variance self-created?
Agreed that the way you worded it, it's not self-created. I mean, I guess every one always is. I mean, they didn't have to come to the board with a plan at all. They could just leave it. Everything is self-created. If it has to have a variance.
Well, I guess an example, one that is self-created, but that I'm more sympathetic is when we had that parcel that had enough acreage, but it was happened to be owned part in one township and part in another. I mean, that's self-created, but I bore a lot of sympathy.
That was the given problem, that was just the given.
And we got variances from both townships there. So, but I think they came in here and they knew what they wanted to buy. They knew what they wanted to build. They knew what the density limits were. I think it's pretty clear to me.
They were even allowed to have multi-res on it. They bought it without even being permitted to have multi-residential on it without.
Then that's pretty self-created, I would think.
Well,
We have to be unanimous in
yeah, well,
our decision.
no, I don't think we
I
have.
think we still have a no over here.
Yeah, because I mean, from my perspective, like you just said, it wasn't permitted for that when they bought it. From my perspective, we created that by making it available for this type of development when it was changed. Well, not we, this board, but we, the village.
I guess I look at it different. I look at self-created if they, as opposed to created by some circumstance besides them. If something happens and they have an existing unit and we change the code, they bought it knowing such and such, and then we changed the code, then we created it. But when they come in with the existing code the way it is and need a variance, then they've self-created the need for the variance. That's the way I look at it.
I mean, they pursued a project knowing that the variance would be required. So is that a self-created problem?
I
Yes,
think
So
so.
we put it that way, yeah.
yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, I agree with
All
that.
right.
Anyone want to make a motion for a determination?
Could I have a motion for either granting or denying this variance request?
Make a motion, we deny.
I'll second
Is
it.
there a second? All those in favor? All right.
Since the application was denied, there's no need for a seeker.
So
Does the applicant want to see the second variance.
It's a question for the applicant.
Do I just go through with the determination of the next?
You're here? Do the septic.
If, I guess, if the project would to change the use, for example, if it was, like, right, we were self-storage.
Yes, yeah.
Would that setback remain, or we would come
I
back?
think you'd have to come back because I would make that
We
second
don't know what
relative
the
to.
question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it would
With
remain.
the land,
Yeah, I think it would remain.
but kind of raising that as an issue, maybe we'll pause
Maybe a pause would be smart then.
and bring that.
I do think it would remain. But. So if you don't want to entertain something that would remain if the use changes, then let's.
I think it would depend on what, or all the circumstances that I don't know now. I know.
I do think that's a fair
Yeah, it's
case.
too many unknowns to.
Yeah, I think the setbacks do potentially change if there's more lot coverage, if the configuration is different, then the setback implications.
Could
The
be.
use is different. The
Yeah.
use is
Yeah.
different.
Their footage could be small.
So we'll pause on the second application.
Sorry.
But I just want to echo that,
I want to thank
Like
you
the bit-
for your
excellent.
clarity and your thoroughness and your poise. It's refreshing. Thank you. This is hard.
Consideration.
This is hard. I don't,
So thank you.
thank you. We take a deep breath.
Yeah.
I think I went into suspended animation for a while.
Don't let that bother you, Jack.
That's the hardest thing we've ever done.
I would say.
That is without a doubt the hardest piece I've ever done. I mean, even when the mall came in with 65 variances for setbacks, the only hard part about that was it was during COVID. We were all on Zoom and we just had to keep counting and we all had to vote on every single variance. This is off the record. We had to go through every single finding for every single variance for 65 of those things. And it was nuts, but this is just much harder. This is just so much harder because
Since we're all wound up, let's bring on the next one.
well,
Coliseum.
step forward, Josh.
This one is more simple.
We're looking at we're looking at setbacks and you have two front yard setbacks, is that right? Because they're on a corner or just one? 49 Highgate, property is within the medium density residential district. I'm sorry, I should back up. This is appeal 2026-04 and the request is 005. Oh, wait a minute, I'm looking at the wrong one.
Yeah, they withdrew all four.
Oh, that's, sorry. Okay, appeal number 2026-05.
Yeah, once she reads that.
The variance request is for 22 feet, 5 inches from the front yard setback.
Yeah, just to give you a quick
Give us a
rundown.
quick rundown.
It's a corner lot, so it requires 2 front yard setbacks. It has no side yard setback at all, so the 2 they're facing the road and you have a couple maps here.
Mhm.
The 2 would be front yard setbacks, and then, like I said, the other 2 would be considered backyard setback. On this corner, as you'll see, there's
So what would be called, sorry, Mike, what would be called the side is another front, is what you're saying, right?
Both fronts.
they have 2 fronts, 2 backs.
Okay.
Yeah. Extending, and it's on the one that has the actual post. And you can look at either one, but. Actually, was to extend the garage, you would be encroaching on the 40-foot setback
By about 20 feet.
by about 20 some feet. Now, that may seem quite a bit, but the reason I gave you a photo of this is you can see that the right of way in that corner is large.
Yeah, it's,
So it's really not
Yeah.
encroaching on the road or
This is the new part.
Yeah.
causing much of an issue with the right of way itself.
mhm. Yeah, and even with those trees there, those are trees, so, yeah, that, Yeah.
This is the 40.
that's,
Yeah.
that's your problem there.
So the house is already in
The house is
setback?
already significantly in the setback.
Yeah, as it is, it existed and there wasn't variance for it in there. So, and I don't know
I
when.
wonder if they use the side yard because it is
So this is-
within the side yard setback.
Is that?
The house is within the side yard setback. It's not within the front
Are
yard.
you in Highgate?
It's,
Okay,
I could just reach his, just mix the corner of the. Yeah,
so look, like,
I wonder if they do this.
was the setback created after this?
Right here. I'm just making a point that perhaps there's no, because they considered it two sides of it.
By definition, these are front yards, by
I
definition.
trust you, my dude. But
Okay.
Creations.
I mean,
Yeah,
All right, well, let's
Okay.
not quibble.
so it makes it less, I mean, there's already a large part in the front yard setback.
Yeah.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
But the point being that it's imperceptible encroachment really on in both directions.
I guess I just want to, guys understand, maybe he can tell me, this is your property right here?
yes.
Can you show me which way the garage will come out? You do,
It's
Bill?
this, yeah, it's this straight line.
Oh, there you go. Okay,
And the dark shaded area on the.
thank you, yes.
That's it.
It's reversed. You know, your map is,
Oh.
there you go. Yeah,
Where is the fire hydrant? That little circle thing?
Yes. 20, 15 people.
You're not gonna be near that.
oh, it's on the road.
But you're gonna take.
Can't see it.
Tiny little tiny. It's not that.
Oh, wow.
Well, I'll go tree later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I researched this, as you can see from what you just pointed out, the actual house is within the setback. And it doesn't have proper setback anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
it came first. The house was built first and then
I would imagine it'd be the house because there's no records.
there are no
any
records of that.
variances whatsoever. So if it is existing, then that's why we're looking for a variance for what he's extending it to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, it's okay. All right, well, we'll proceed. And whip through this so you can go home
Like for
before.
a mower? Why do you need to extend? it?
Prius.
For what?
A Prius.
Oh, a Prius.
70 feet wide. It's really very strong.
Little car.
So that's the whole garage. There's not,
It's connected to a two-bay garage.
okay.
Okay.
You're gonna come in for an EV
No.
charger.
Yeah.
Ah.
Essentially.
Something.
All right, do we need to go through, all right, what do you want me to read into the?
Yeah, 5.
That's over. I keep getting the wrong one.
Section.
Right here.
Excuse the printing.
No, that's not it. Here, take it. Yeah, there are too many papers. Okay.
Usually kicks out the printing there with an indentation.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see what you
I'll
mean.
change it.
All right, this appeal is 2026-05, and it involves consideration of the following proposed action. For Josh Jahani to seek the front yard setback variance for the property located at 49 Highgate Circle, tax parcel 47.1-5-31. The properties within the medium density residential district, which requires a 40-foot front yard setback. The applicant is extending the garage, which would have an 18-foot, 7-inch front yard setback. And that the Village of Lansing Board of Zoning Appeals held a public hearing regarding this action, reviewed and analyzed all the documents. I believe it's a type 2 action, so we don't have to do seeker. And we will go right to the resolution. No, we won't. We will go through the findings. Whether an undesirable, this is going to be really hard. Are you ready? Whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties will be created by granting the area variance.
No.
No.
No, agreed. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance.
No.
No, the house is already in the
The
front.
house is there, build a tent behind the house.
Right, yeah.
It's gonna take- I mean, one of those Kevlar things.
Yes.
Okay, no, all right. Cannot. Whether the requested area variance is substantial.
No.
No, not at all.
Whether the proposed area variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
No.
Now, I assume that this is going to look like the rest of the house, pretty much.
Correct.
Nobody will know. Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created.
Yes,
Yeah. But,
doesn't prevent it.
right, it is hereby determined by the Village of Lansing Board of Zoning Appeals that the following variance is granted or denied. May I have a motion to either grant or deny?
Shouldn't grant.
Is there a second? Second by Mike. All those in favor?
I agree.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All that, huh?
Oh, Mayor,
That was easier than the other.
I'm sure they do.
I'm glad you waited, but sorry it was so late. No conditions.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Please.
Then I get a contractor and then he'll investigate, he'll be a permit, do I do anything else?
Yeah, it's just be a building permit and then just contact me with it. And that's that. If he wants to contact me, I have no problem, sending him an email, wherever you get, what I need. Looked at all the items that I need, the application, things like that, so it just got to get all of them.
Gonna have most of them.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Should be well.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Sweet. Do we need to review minutes?
No.
No minutes, nothing else?
No.
All right, so we close the meeting.
Yes.
Could I have do you have anything you want?
No.
Could I have a motion to close?
Make a motion to do.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
8:20.
Great job, everybody.
So over under, I'm coming back with maybe a different project.